Hello, everybody. My name is Tony Schmidt, founder and CEO of Greek Trek. We are a fraternity and sorority management service helping chapters spend less time tracking so they can spend more time serving their community. So my story starts back in the University of Kentucky when I was a freshman in college, and I joined a co-ed community service fraternity called Alpha Phi Omega. I attended the first chapter meeting and immediately realized how inefficient fraternities, and I'm assuming sororities, are as well. And so the chapter meetings lasted almost 3 hours. At the end of the meeting, there was just a slew of papers across the front desk with all the events happening that week. The entire chapter rushed up front and signed their names on which events they wanted to go to that week right before they all filled up. It was chaos. So as the only CS person in the room, I was like, let's take this upon myself and see if I can solve this problem. And so for all the founders in the room, you probably have a similar experience where you faced a problem and you thought you were the person to solve it. And so that brings me to my first point. My first tip here is solve a problem. So you want to make sure that your company is solving a problem. Sometimes we get really deep into the technology. We're super passionate about what we're doing, but you need to refocus all the time and make sure that you're solving the problem and you're the right person to solve that problem. So over the next couple of years, I developed a system where members could track all of their active requirements to make sure they maintain active status, so they can see all of their philanthropy hours, their fundraising hours. They can see all the events that are going on in their chapter, and they can also pay their dues online and help the treasurer maintain all the finances together. So the system was extremely successful. Within just a couple of years, we had over 150 chapters, campuses across the country, coast to coast, and it was amazing success serving all of the chapters in my own fraternity. I kept it very small. And so with all of this success, with all of these chapters comes visibility. With visibility comes a lot of people telling you how to run your business. So my second point I'd like to point out here is stay focused. It was successful because I was focused. I know my fraternity. I know the problems my fraternity has. I know the unique ins and outs of my fraternity. So I focused my business to serve just the chapters of my fraternity. So everyone I spoke to, everyone was like, just go straight to just release it to everybody. Release it to all the clubs. Release it to high school clubs. Release it to Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Everyone manages members and finances and events. Just go big right now. But that wouldn't be staying focused. But staying focused doesn't mean don't grow. As soon as I had a lot of chapters in my own fraternity, I was like, how can I grow the business? And so the staying focused means being very specific on your growth. And so the next step for me, what I realized, was opening it up to other fraternities and sororities. And that basically allows me to open up the scope of my business, but in a very calculated way. So it's calculated growth. That's important. And so now I've expanded the business. I've added gaps. Yes, I'm not the perfect tool for all fraternities and sororities, but those gaps that I've created is manageable growth. And so now I'm able to fill those gaps slowly instead of taking on everything and competing with Facebook groups. But I also wanted to look, where else can I grow the business? And so I looked at what I have. What do I have right now? Well, I've got hundreds of chapters of my own fraternity across the country, generating a massive amount of data, right? Who wants this data? Of course, I started looking up the national organization itself. If the national organization could have all the data that I have, they're going to be able to make data-driven decisions to manage staffing and resources that they develop back into their own fraternity. And so that was my next phase of the business, growing up into the regional staff and the national staff as well. So if we clean up this chart a little bit, you'll see that my business started with just my fraternity, Alpha Phi Omega, growing across to all chapters within fraternities and sororities, also growing up to national level organizations of my own fraternity. And now I'm growing sideways across to other national organizations, their national headquarters, fraternities and sororities. And now you can see the foundation of my business, Greek Trek, and the two business models that I'm running at the same time, B2C to the chapters and B2B to the individual, to the headquarters. And of course, they help cyclically collaborate. So I'd like to end with my last tip here is community. Surround yourself with community. Surround yourself with passionate people working hard on their own projects, and they care about their projects, and they care about yours as well. So thank you. My name is Tony Schmidt, and here's my contact information. I'd love to open it to questions. And if you don't have any questions, you can ask me about 0, 1, and affinity. Just saying. Okay. Questions? Yeah, great question. So for the B2C model, it is a subscription cost. It is $6 per person per semester. So I keep the cost really low and a per person subscription rate so that chapters can easily just add it to their dues and not worry about their chapter membership fluctuating numbers every single semester. Biggest mistake I made. So I'm going to go back to, I'm just going to answer my own question. So I'm going to look at 0, 1, and affinity. So when I was first starting out, the first lines of code that I wrote, I didn't obey the 0, 1 infinity rule. And since this is New Tech Seattle, I wanted to talk about technology just a little bit. So for all the developers in the room and designers, 0, 1 infinity is a rule that I would recommend you always focus on to help ensure that you grow, you can scale. So whenever you have to make a decision where you have to limit something, there's only 3 answers for how much you need to limit it, 0, 1, or infinity. So my first problem was I created 2 database tables, one to manage chapter meetings and attendance, and one to track service projects, right? Worked great for years. And then the social chair was like, I want to put social events on the calendar. That I didn't obey the 0, 1 infinity rule, didn't have a table for social events. So of course, always think about that. Make sure that they can scale their system. Don't ever limit it to just some arbitrary number. If they can have more than 1, it should be infinity.
I was in a sorority. I was a Sigma Kappa. How can I help you with my alumni status for your business?
Wonderful. Thank you for asking. So anybody who has connections to fraternities and sororities, I would love to speak with you. I would love to use your networks to help my B2B business and get in the door and have some first meetings or some first emails so that I can further go through the sales process and sales pipeline in those organizations. So please reach out to me if you have any connections with membership in the national staff. One more question? I saw your hand first. So that's the great part about my second point was stay focused. Because I have a very, very niche product that satisfies one specific issue, I don't have any competitors that are just for fraternities and sororities. Now, if you expand that, and if I made the mistake and did all clubs, there's lots of membership management services, like Wild Apricot, I believe, is the biggest one, where it just does any club. And it does all their membership stuff. But they don't know what a pledge member is and how limited their privileges need to be. And they don't know the recruitment process at schools for Greek life, right? So maintaining that focus is key to success in the business. And so I don't have anyone in the space right now that does chapter management.